We're live. We're live. How you loving? How you loving? How you loving? Oh my goodness. Today it is about Enoch, Elijah, Ezekiel. No, they did not see God. No, God didn't take them. No, it was an alien abduction. Let's get into it. All right. So if you're brand new here, welcome. We're live on the Reverend Valerie, the Valerie Love YouTube channel. We're live on the Christian Witches YouTube channel, and we're live on the Christian Witches Facebook fan page. Hi, I love it. Classes in session. Oh, Carla. Carla, you know it's about to be on and popping. Aurora Day. Many blessings, sis. Many blessings. Don't you love this? Oh my goodness. Yes, yes, yes. Family, y'all are ready. 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 Okay, let's begin, shall we? We're gonna go on screen share. Vicky, Victoria, Queen V. How you loving? How you loving, Queen V? First, before I hop into this deliciousness that we have from the book of Enoch, from the Bible with Elijah and Ezekiel, before we hop into all this deliciousness, I must give a big, huge shout out to all the new subscribers, all connected with us, you fifth dimensioners, you secret mystery, secret keepers, you keepers of the flame. Over 1,200 new subscribers on the Christian Witches YouTube channel in the last 28 days. What? That's you. That's y'all. What? Because you know I have in mind. Oh, is it a glitch? You're loving this series? Yay, Queen Bee. Oh, you were having a glitch. Am I okay though? Oh my goodness. There goes magic again. It started already. You see that little thumbs up? Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So, a big shout out to everyone who's watching this series. A big shout out to everyone who loves this series, we're growing together. We're doing our research together. Oh, thank you. Mwah. Limitless energy. How you loving, May? Thank you so, so, so much. So, a big shout out to all of you because if you weren't watching these vids, would it be the same? Of course not. I am so thankful for you because you are raising the vibration of the entire planet. Wow. Oh, good, May. You can hear me well. You are raising the vibration of the entire planet. We all contracted through soul contracts, through infinite consciousness, whatever we desire to call it. We all contracted. We decided that we were going to come here at this time, at this juncture, yes, and appear into this time space continuum where infinite beings appearing in the space time continuum so that we could lend our energy to the absolute ascension of the human race into God's selves. Right? You love these videos? Yay! The information is mind blowing, isn't it, May? May, the more I go down the rabbit hole, the more invitations I receive to go deeper down the rabbit hole. So let's get to it for today. So thank you, thank you. I love you. So much more is coming up. I'm working on a movie. Yay! Coach Cheryl out there in Utah at the Wellness Convention. Yay! So much more is coming up, family, on this. I'm creating a movie. It's ideating. The movie is ideating. A studio is ideating. So much is coming. And I'm so thankful that all of you love it. And listen, I do want to say this. For all the Christians who find it very difficult to hear this kind of information, because trust me, it was very difficult for me too. Coming out of fundamentalist Christianity, especially fundamentalist Christianity, I had a hard time. I promise you, I had a hard time. It was like finding out all these things about the Bible. It's not easy. So if you're a Christian that's deconstructing, deconverting, I feel you. Because when you start on the spiritual path and you continue on the spiritual path, you will become untethered because you will cut the chains that you had to this belief or that system, thinking it was the only way to source. And you find out that you are the source. This is a portal right here. And going through this portal, and you are the infinite. So it's very difficult. So I honor you if you are making this change. I honor you. And for all the Christians that are not ready to make the change, all good. Do what works for you, right? All good. Do what works for you. As for me and my household, we shall get to the bottom of the truth. Okay? As for me and my household. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? As for me and my household, we shall serve the Lord. No, that's not what I'm saying. As for me and my household, we shall get to the truth. You are on Christian Witches podcast or the Christian Witches YouTube channel, the Christian Witches Witchy Wednesday. I'm Reverend Valerie Love, author of over 25 books, over 25 books, 26 now. 25 books on practical spirituality, the occult, and Christian witchcraft. I am a seeker of truth. I am a spiritual life coach, teacher. I lead retreats all over the world with amazing beings like you. And Christian witches are magical beings who align with or resonate with Christ consciousness. But people always say, you can't be a Christian witch, or what is a Christian witch, or never heard of that, or it's an oxymoron. So we're just letting you know that there are many thousands and thousands and thousands, but hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people all over the globe who have magic, practice the occult, do rituals, do magic, and connect with Christ consciousness. It's very common. So when you hear us say the word Christian, we don't mean an adherent to a religion. We mean Christ consciousness. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about Christian. So in our community, it is a magical community. We study the magical arts and sciences for, as the Gnostics would call it, even though they wouldn't have called themselves Gnostics, as many people before us and many people in the mystery schools of Egypt and the mystery schools throughout the ages have known that this whole thing is about gnosis, knowing, not believing in sky gods, knowing. So we are committed and we are engaged in the great work, and that is ascension of self and all humanity. Here are some of my books. I would be so happy if you pick them up. Link down below in the description. The Christian Witches Convention is coming to New Orleans, Memorial Day weekend. And we want you to be there. Go to christianwitchesconvention.com. What I'm actually going to do is drop the link, because this Monday is the last. Tickets sales end Monday. So if you don't have your ticket by Monday, wow, we're going to see you next year. Well, we're going to know that you're going to be with us this year. Yay! First time watching live? Yay! First time watching one of your live streams. I found your channel a few days ago and I find what you were saying interesting. Oh, welcome, Raven. We're so happy you're here. Welcome. Let's get to the truth, right? Let's get to the truth. I love the Bible, so I just want to let people know who are watching, because a lot of Christians say to me, well, why do you use the Bible if you said it's not the word of God? I didn't say I was throwing the Bible out. The Bible for me is one of the greatest books ever. I love the Bible. The Bible is actually my guidepost to the ancient mysteries. Hold on, it looks like this is a little bit frozen. Hold on, let me see. Oh, that's interesting. The whole thing is a little frozen. Okay, let's see if I can get this together. Okay, here we go. Oh, I need to update my card for Canva. Okay, Canva. All right. So we got to the Christian Witches Convention. Now, here we go. Let me make sure I'm in the right place. Yeah, I think this is, yep, I'm in the right place. Okay, this is what we're talking about here in this conversation. The evidence for extraterrestrial activity in all three accounts of Enoch, Elijah, and Ezekiel. We're going to consider what we know from the Bible. We're going to consider information from the book of Enoch, particularly the Ethiopic. Now, how can you, if you weren't born in Ethiopia, you might not easily be able to get your hands on the Ethiopian Bible. So I can tell you where to read the book of Enoch, Ethiopic, from the Ethiopian Bible. And you can get that at pseudepigrapha.com. You hear me talk about pseudepigrapha.com a lot. Let me drop the link in the chat for you right now, because this needs to be a bookmark for you. Pseudepigrapha, you can see I go to it all the time. Let me copy this link, and there's a whole lot of books in here they would have never put in the Bible that you need to read. Here it is. It's the Ethiopic Apocalypse of Enoch. Okay, let us get, so that's the one I like, and I read different versions, but let me drop this link in the chat for you. Here's the link for the Christian Witches Convention. And now we're going to drop the link for pseudepigrapha.com. Pseudepigrapha.com. This is where you could right at your fingertips, right online. You can read a lot of the lost books of the Bible. You can definitely read the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha is there. In case you don't have a Bible with the Apocrypha, I'll show you mine right here, because I have a few Bibles. I have a whole Bible collection. Here is my Bible with the Apocrypha. So when you go to the you can even go to Barnes and Noble, and you can get the Bible with the Apocrypha. You know, they told you not to read it, and anything they tell me not to read, I go straight to. Because if you're trying to forbid me to do something, must be a reason. And I have never found that there's any reason other than control of your mind and what to think, and of the masses. I've never found it. For anybody to tell you don't read a certain book because it's forbidden, that's control. Now, we're also going to consider Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian texts, because remember, Sumer was where the ancient Iraq, which was Iraq before Sumer. That's where it all began. That's ground zero. That is where they landed their spaceships, and they built a spaceport. I know this sounds so crazy. They built a spaceport, and they were going up and down on the spaceport, and that is the true meaning of Jacob's ladder, where he saw beings, he said angels. But remember, after this was written, they came many years later and made it all spiritual. None of this stuff was meant to be spiritual when it was originally written. When it was originally written all the way back in Sumerian, it was just talking about sky peoples. They came here from other star systems, different star systems, right? And created a civilization on this planet. And we call this global civilization on this planet the Atlantean civilization. It wasn't just one place, right? Like Plato talked about Atlantis. It wasn't just one place. It was a global civilization. You can still see the remains today. That's why we say archaeology. You can still see the remains today. And we also consider astronomy. So remember, how did it get in our Bible? Going all the way back to Sumer. So we go all the way back to Sumer, where it started. These people came here hundreds of thousands of years ago, about 450,000 years ago, and they were here for a couple of 100,000 years. I shouldn't call them people, the star people, the beings. Anu. I'm not going to say the word in this presentation, in this video, because the bots will think that I'm talking about them and will put a Wikipedia badge under the video. So instead, I will call them the Elohim, because that's what the Bible calls them. The Bible calls them the Elohim. And according to Mauro Biglino, who was a translator from the original Hebrew for a Vatican-approved publication, I'll show you his books. You want to get his book called The Naked Bible. That's linked below. According to Mauro Biglino, he found at least 20 different Elohim in the Bible. in the Hebrew Bible. We're not talking the New Testament, we're talking the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, he said he found at least 20 different ones. Remember, El Shaddai is one, El Elyon is one, the Elohim is a group. There's a sky council mentioned in Psalm 81. Yahweh is another one. These are different beings, much later on, thousands of years after these texts were written. Then they came around and spiritualized the whole thing. And then when they were in Babylonia, in Babylonian captivity in the 6th century BCE, they did a big redaction of the Bible, and they made the Yahwehs got a hold of the Bible. It was actually a cult called the Yahwehs, who wanted it only to be Yahweh, just Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. There was a lot of gods. There were a lot of gods. Israel was polytheistic for a very long time. They are an offshoot of the Canaanites. And the Canaanites, they had a whole pantheon, like all the ancient civilizations. All the ancient civilizations had multiple gods. The Egyptians did, the Greeks did, the Romans did, and even going back before the Greeks went all through and took over Egypt with the Ptolemies, even before the Greeks came along, going back to the Assyrians, the Persians, all of them, they all had gods. Everybody had gods. There was no concept of one God. Israelites didn't have one God. So all of this was being written about multiple beings, and none of them were gods. They were all sky people. They were being written about multiple beings. And you can tell because in the Bible, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, and it doesn't mean in the beginning of the whole universe. In the beginning, gods, the Elohim, started creating. The Elohim, I am in the original Hebrew is plural. So don't believe that they say, oh, it's a plural of majesty. They're saying that it's God's majesty is so amazing. It can't even be contained in one being. So we just say it's like multiple beings. No, they're just trying to explain away Elohim. And don't listen to the Christians who tell you, oh, they're talking about Jesus Christ. It's the Trinity, because the Trinity wasn't invented yet. Do your research, Christians, right? Not being mean, simply being truthful. So there were no people that had one God. None. The only exception that I will offer to that was Akhenaten, who was born Amenhotep IV, and he changed his name from Amen to Akhenaten because he viewed God as one, the Aten, and he changed his name to Akhenaten, which means beloved of the Aten. And the Aten, he pictured it. I have a scroll, I have a papyrus from Egypt. He pictured the Aten as a sun. It looked like a sun, not the same sun as Amun-Ra or Ra, as a disc with rays coming out and hands at the end of the rays blessing him. He had 5 children, and he named all his children after the Aten. His wife was Nefertiti. Everyone knows Queen Nefertiti, beautiful, stunningly beautiful Egyptian queen. And Akhenaten and Nefertiti had 5 daughters, and one of the daughters was named Mary Aten, which Akhenaten, does that mean? No, I think Mary Aten means beloved of the Aten. And I think Akhenaten means devoted to the Aten or something like that. One of those. But anyway, he was the only one that we have in history that said, hey guys, it's one. It's not all of them. It's just one, right? He was the only one, not even Moses. Moses was not a monotheist. So when they tell you that there's only one God, that happened in like the 600s BCE. That's when they started the Yahwehs, the cult of Yahweh, because Yahweh was only one of the 70 sons of El, and there was a whole bunch of sons. He wasn't even a major god in the Canaanite pantheon. He was a lesser god. So Yahweh kind of got fused with El, and El is like a very wonderful, fatherly kind of God. Yahweh was not. And you can tell he was a war god and a god of storms. and Baal, which you see in the Bible, Yahweh against Baal, Yahweh against Baal. They're always having these face-offs, and the priests Baal don't like the priests of Yahweh, and they're facing off. Well, why would you need to face off if your God is really the God? You wouldn't need a face off. Everyone would know that your God is the God, because your God wasn't the only God. Your God was one God among you. You couldn't throw a pebble in the ancient world and not hit 20 gods. So let's situate our consciousness according to when these things were written, and not try to take our modern mind back then and think Jehovah or God. No, 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 no. It wasn't like that. So we have to consider science, archaeology, history, astronomy. We must consider all these things. Now, here's a disclaimer. I am not here to prove the actual existence of Enoch, Elijah, or Ezekiel as historical characters. I don't know if they were historical figures. I'm not here to prove it one way or the other. And legitimacy of them as historical figures is not required for this discussion, because we are simply looking at the text and what was recorded about the Elohim, or from the ones who from heaven came. That's what it means, right? Or Elohim means powerful ones, but Anu, that other word, means the ones who from the Anuna, which they call themselves, the Anuna, are the ones from heaven, from those who came from heaven down to earth, basically. The Bible calls them, as I mentioned, the Elohim, so I will call them the Elohim because I come from a Bible perspective, because I'm a Christian witch and I love the Bible. Now, Enoch is very difficult to date. I like to look at the dating. Where did these people sit in history? Because when you look at where they sat in history, you can look at what was going on around them, what religions were going on around them. Where were they on the planet? Were they in the Levant? Were they in the Mediterranean? Were they by the Nile River? Because that makes a difference too. Were they in Mesopotamia? You want to know where you want to situate these beings, these people, if they were people, in their context. Context is so important. So this is the genealogy that they give us according to the Bible. According to the Bible, they told us that Enoch had a son called Methuselah, whom we know was super old, right? Old as Methuselah, right? Or Methuselah, some call him. Lamech was Methuselah's son, and then Noah, which we know as the biblical character, who is actually a riff on much earlier stories. The Noah story is a remaking of the flood myth. It's not a myth, it was a flood story. Noah did not take 2 donkeys and 2 ravens and 2 mice. No. These are children's fairy tales. There's essence to the story. There is something to the story. Please, we cannot keep believing these children's fairy tales that this man took 2 of everything into the ark. I mean, that is just absolutely absurd. 2 lions and 2 rabbits, and the lions didn't eat anything, and the 2 tigers. And how did you pin up all these animals? How did you feed all these animals? What level of food would you have had to have on an ark to feed all these beings for more than 40 days and 40 nights, for months? Because according to the Bible, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. And then after 40 days and 40 nights, they still had to wait for the waters to abate. And the waters did not abate right away. He sent out, I believe it was a raven. Then later on, he sent out a dove, and the dove didn't come back. Oh, the dove came back with a leaf in his mouth. And that's how he knew the waters had abated. You're talking months. It's an impassable story. Yet, this is not me bashing the Bible, yet I am very happy that the Noah story is in the Bible, because it is pointing to it's a pointer. It's a sign. If you know how to read the Bible, this is esoteric. It's telling you something deeper. It's like, hey, it's giving you clues for you to go and do the research, so we can go back thousands of years and see, well, what was written before the Bible. That's when the Sumerian the Akkadian, the Babylonian, the Assyrian stories were written. The Sumerian stories are the oldest. So it's pointing to something. Noah, we can't believe the Noah story. The Noah story is there to help us understand that there is a much greater story going on here. And I love that about the Bible, because if you know what you're looking for, wow, the Bible has it. I'm about to show you that the Bible has shapeshifters in it too. Okay, so let's talk about Enoch first. So, what was the story of Enoch? What was the deal with Enoch? I'm not going to tell you everything about Enoch. I'm going to give you the highlights. And the reason that we're going to give you the highlights is because I have a chart that I want to show you. And the chart is going to be, I made up a chart that gives you the breakdown of Enoch, Elijah. So, in other words, stay to the end so I can give you the Cliff Notes version. I'm going to give you the real short and sweet version. Okay, so what was going on in the book of Enoch? Well, it was 200 watchers, and they took these human wives. Samjaza was the leader, and Azazel was like his right-hand man. So them two said, hey, these women that are coming, because we already know the Anunnaki took one of their own beings and sacrificed him, basically. Took some of his blood, took some clay from the earth, captured some of the bipedal beings that were already here on the planet. If you didn't hear those stories, you can go back to the first stories in the series, and did genetic modifications, and voila, human. Or I shouldn't say human, I could more accurately say Homo sapien sapien, us. Okay, so we are the product of genetic modification. So when the Adamu, as they called him, the Bible calls him Adam, he's also known as Adamu. Well, when the Adamu and the Eve, when they were made, they started having children. As you know, they had a garden called Eden. And in the Eden garden, it was actually an outdoor laboratory where they were breeding these pairs, different pairs. It was Adam and Eve wasn't the only pair. Remember, these stories were remade for the Bible. So the Bible is showing you, hey, the Bible is preserving things for everyday language for the whole human race, and has preserved it for us for thousands of years. And we would not have known about these things until 1940s is when they actually went back and started digging up and found these Sumerian texts. We wouldn't have even, 1800s, 1900s, we wouldn't have even known about this, except these stories were already in wide circulation because we have the Bible. So the women, they took the women for wives, and we know the story. They had giants. The women had giants, right? Because they were crossbred. So who were the watchers? Not angels. Some say they were the Ijiji, and the Ijiji, which we know is sort of like a worker race of a lower order, like the Anunu, the Anuna, or the Elohim, didn't consider the Ijiji on their level. They sort of like made the Ijiji do the work, and the Ijiji were doing work for like hundreds of thousands of years. So it wasn't necessarily the Anuna. It could have been the Ijiji, who were the watchers, who took these human wives. Now, the Bible says they were angels. I always found that story suspect, because how is an angel going to come down here and mate with a woman? I mean, I was missing something. Yet, they're not angels. They're actual beings, flesh and blood beings that can mate with us. Okay? Now, what does Enoch say? He said that there was clouds and mist around him. He said that he saw the course of the stars and the lightnings. They sped and hastened him. Then he said, the wind caused me to fly and lifted me upward and bore me to heaven. If someone told you that, what would you think? Then he saw a wall built of crystals surrounded by tongues of fire. Then he went into the wall of fire and saw a house made of crystals. He said its ceiling was like the path of the stars and of lightning. He saw a fiery cherubim are not angels. He saw a flaming fire surrounded the walls, and portals blazed with fire. He's talking about portals. He said when he entered, it was hot as fire and cold as ice, because he might have been outside the atmosphere where they took him, which would explain why it was cold as ice. Then he saw a second house greater than the first, and a portal opened before me, blazing with fire. He said the floor was fire, and above its ceiling was the path of the stars. He keeps looking up and he sees that they have the path, like a map of the stars above him. Then he said there was a lofty throne with an appearance like crystals, wheels like the shining sun, streams of flaming fire from underneath the throne, and on the throne, the great glory sat on the throne. We already know that the word glory is not accurately translated. The word kavod, if indeed this is the word in the book of Enoch, kavod means big heavy thing, possibly a metal something, a big heavy ship. And one Jewish scholar said it denotes armaments as something dangerous. He said his raiment shone more brightly than the sun. A flame of fire was about him, and a fire was before him. Here are the shapeshifters. And they took and brought me to a place in which those who were there were like flaming fire. And when they wished, they appeared as men. Shapeshifters. These are the same three shapeshifters that came to Abraham. It's right in the Bible. The men came to Abraham to tell Abraham that, there was going to be a Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. That wasn't God. None of this is God. Nothing in the Bible is about God. The real God is not in the Bible, and the Bible is not spiritual at all. The Bible is full of mythology, archaeology, allegory, astrology. Did I already say astrology? Astronomy, genetics, genetic modification, shapeshifters, dragons, flying serpents. I'll talk about those in another conversation in this series. Okay, what about Elijah? So that's Enoch. So now keep in mind all the things we just said about Enoch. Now I'm not going to tell you about the watchers and what happened. I'll tell you this part. Let me come on screen share and tell you how did he come to be in this situation where he was there. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Enoch was on a ship. That's exactly right. What does it sound like to you? I mean, am I the only one that's thinking this? Tell me, family. What does it sound like to you? If someone says that whirlwind took you up to heaven and you describe everything perfectly, well, what they did was they made it spiritual and they made it a vision. They said, oh, it was a vision. No, it wasn't a vision. It was what he was actually doing. He tells you exactly what he was doing and what he was seeing. He saw the fire. He saw, and he was so frightened when he was telling the story. How did he get to be in this position? Yes, the portal with the doors and the fires of the engine. Absolutely. Odette got it. Odette, you got it. He was abducted. It was an alien abduction, yet he volunteered. So all three of them, Enoch, Elijah, and Ezekiel, I'm amazed that they're all E names. They all volunteered. It was a spacecraft for Fifth House. That's exactly right. It was a spacecraft. They all volunteered. None of them, it was not a without their permission abduction, which there are abductions that are without people's permission. This was not that. They knew where they were going and what they were doing. They knew they were getting on spaceships. And here is what happened with Enoch. So how did Enoch get to be picked to go up in the spaceship? Well, come on, nameless creation. Bible thumpers always change the words to fit their interpretation. Keep teaching them. That's right. Because they want you to believe that all of this is spiritual. They want you to believe in some God outside of yourself. They want you to believe in a sky God. They want you to believe that this is the glory of God that they're in visions about. No, they're having it's very descriptive. When you read it, it is extremely descriptive. He tells you everything he saw at every point. This person is not making these things up. Okay, so let's go further. How did Enoch wind up on the spaceship anyway? Like, what was he doing up there? Well, Enoch was a scribe. Okay? He would write, he would keep, because, scribes throughout history are always highly valued because scribes keep the records. It is very important. In Egypt, if you were a scribe, that was a very high position, a high station. Everyone couldn't read, everyone couldn't write. We didn't need everyone to read and write. We had scribes, right? And the scribes would write the sacred stories of that faith or that culture. So scribes were utmost importance. Well, he was a scribe, and he came to find out about these watchers. And that Samjaza, who was the head of, he was supposed to be overseeing the humans. He wasn't supposed to be looking at all the daughters and like, these women are fine. The daughters were very beautiful. It says that in the Bible too, right? They were very beautiful. And so Samjaza and Azazel was not an angel. Azazel was one of the watchers. It says what they are. They're watchers. They're watching humanity. Why? What is spiritual about that? Nothing. They're beings from another advanced technology that are watching the humans. They were set in place to watch the humans. What's spiritual about that? Nothing. Okay, so the watchers started taking these wives. And at first, it wasn't a big problem. Yet the women were having these babies, and these babies were so huge, and some of the women actually died in childbirth having these big, huge babies. And then the babies grew and grew and grew, and that's where you get the stories of like Goliath and Samson and all these extraordinary huge people. Some of them 15 to 30 feet high. These giants were huge, and almost many cultures that are still on the planet have legends of giants. It's in the Bible, right? Of course, we do have it in the Bible, the story of the giants. Many other cultures have the stories of the giants, right? The biggest mistake is to consider the Bible holy. Isn't that the truth? When the Bible is telling us some really profound things, if we're reading it without the shackles of the church, we must drop the shackles of the church. Okay? Now, so it wasn't a problem until the giants grew up, and the giants started wreaking havoc. They're eating people because they're hungry, they're ravenous. They want to eat people, they're drinking the blood of people. These giants are out of control. You cannot get these giants to heal. These giants are running amok all over, just causing all kinds of hate, mayhem, and havoc. Okay? And so the watchers have bosses, right? The Elohim, the Anuna, that are still sort of in their stations up in the heavens on their spaceships. And of course, they had a spaceport where they would come and go over near Iraq. Well, when the uh, when the watchers were going to get their punishment, I guess you could say, their judgment, the bosses of the watchers called Enoch, because Enoch is a scribe and Enoch could see everything that was going on. So they called him and they said, tell the watchers that the gig is up. They're going to be destroyed. We're killing their kids. Their kids are out of control, running all over the planet, eating people, drinking blood, plundering everything. We can't have this. Remember, the Anunnaki created humans for us to do the work for them. So, of course, they didn't want anything, messing with that, because they had to get the gold, and they found a lot of gold in the Apsu. The Apsu is Africa, South Africa, where Enki was, and Enki had Adam's calendar is still there. That was one of Enki's calendars. Adam's calendar is still in South Africa right now. All across South Africa, if you read the book, Ancient Gold Mines of the Blank, I don't want to say the word so they don't put a little tag under this video, you will see that the gold mines are in Africa. They called it the Apsu. Well, they were running amok, and so Enoch was called up. They brought Enoch up on the spaceship so that Enoch could get the word to take to the watchers down on the earth. Just tell them, y'all, it's over for y'all. Y'all are, and when Enoch is going, he's just like shocked, like a whirlwind is lifting him up. He's going up on this spaceship. He said it's fire and it's ice. Well, when we launch a spaceship into heaven, it's fire. When we blast off a rocket ship, it's fire. It's a lot of fire. Same thing, right? None of this should seem odd. It all makes perfect sense to me, right? You know more about the Bible than most Christians do. That's true. Christians, the Bible says, isn't that the truth? And I find that most Christians don't really read and study the Bible. I find that many Christians listen to what they're taught in church, which is not a dig. I used to do the same thing because I couldn't understand it. I didn't know what this thing was all about. It just seems so cryptic. Oh, okay, read the Bible. Here we go with Bible study. What does that mean? No clue. Now I am appreciating the Bible for what it actually is. Okay, let's go further. So they brought Enoch up because he's the scribe. He's going to write out all these things. He's going to convey the message back to the watchers that they are going to now be judged and that they're going to be shackled and thrown away and that there's going to be killing. He told them, go tell them that we're going to kill all these kids. We're going to kill a giant. So go down there and tell those watchers that we are killing their giants and it's over. And don't be sad about your kids because your kids are out of control. And we can't have this on this planet. Earth was like their project. It's like Project Earth. We were a project. I think we still are. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. It's another conversation for another day. So that's how Enoch got all involved with this because he's in the middle of the thing. He's sort of like seeing the watchers. He's the scribe. They know he's keeping note, keeping track. The watchers boss, the Elohim bosses, bring him up and say, listen, and he's just describing what happened when he's going up, like, and he said he was terrified. You read the book of Enoch, this man is terrified. This man said he was so afraid he fell out. Then one of them had to come and revive him because the man is terrified. Like, what if you had an abduction like that and you're looking around, you're seeing fire, you look up, and they've got crystals. They had some kind of crystal technology, but that's not strange. We have crystal technology. Without crystals, I wouldn't be able to do this live stream on this computer right now. None of this is strange to me. Smash up the likes, smash that like button, baby, smash that share button, baby, and remember to subscribe. So subscribe, smash up the likes wherever you are, add to the conversation. We absolutely love it, love it, love it. So come on. Okay, let's listen to this. Spirituality is having nature with one's divine self and is also the cosmic force of the universe, which leads, directs, and gives energy to believe in yourself and nobody else. Hello, amen. You are your best doctor, friend, teacher, and healer of your mind, not God or Jesus, because they do not exist. Hello, come on, somebody. It's you, boo. You are it. You are the expression of the infinite consciousness. You are it. Let's roll. So let's go back into our presentation. Let's share a screen so we can get deeper into this. And for all of you that are here, I love you, love you, love you. Oh my God, I love you. Over 120 people here in the chat, in the live stream. We love it. We love it. We love it. We love it. Okay. Look what, we've talked about the shapeshifters. Now let's go to Elijah. Okay, what happened with Elijah? Well, the Christians told us that God took Elijah on a chariot of fire. But now you tell me what you think. It said, and it came to pass when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. What does that sound like to you? Okay, let's break it down. Oh, before we get to Ezekiel, let's talk about Elijah. Remember that there is a word that we have been talking about called Lord, translated Lord, or sometimes Adonai, which is one of the Elohim. So what this is telling us is that the Elohim would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that they would take him up into a whirlwind, ruach, which they told us, oh, it means spirit of God. Ruach means wind. And they had some kind of vessel machinery that could create a great wind because they used it to part the waters when they first came here because there was water and there was chaos. And they used the wind creating instrument vessel to part the waters so they could land and have land and start doing things. This is all in the Bible. Isn't that wild? Elijah dates to about the 9th century BCE if he was an actual person. Let's talk about Ezekiel, then we're going to put it all together. Enoch, Elijah, and Ezekiel, because I love all three of these stories. I love them. I love them. I love them. And you remember that you were told in church that Elijah and Elisha were together and that God was going to take up Elijah and that Elisha said, when you go up, Elijah said, before I go, is there anything you want before I go? He knew he was going. He said, is there anything that you'd like? If you read these stories from this perspective, it'll make all the sense in the world. He said, do you want anything before I go? Because I'm about to go up on the spaceship. He didn't say spaceship, right? I'm about to go up into the heavens, as you call it. But it wasn't spiritual. Heaven meant sky. Okay? It wasn't spiritual. It was no spiritual concept in the original Hebrew. And so he said, remember we were told in church, Elijah asked Elisha, and Elisha said, double your anointing. Yes. Yes, God. Woo, Jesus. You know how they do in church? They said, Elijah said, yeah, I want double your anointing. And Elijah said, well, I don't know if I can give that to you. But when I go up on the spaceship, if my mantle falls, you know you got what you asked for. And so here come the chariot of fire right on time. And it parted the waters. It says it in 2 Kings. Read it. It's in 2 Kings chapter 2. Where are we? There it is. 2 Kings chapter 2. Read it right in the Bible. And so when he went up, his mantle fell. And then here go Elisha. He can raise the dead too. Yes. Ooh, Lord, look at him. Won't he do it? That's what they told us in church. And wow, these are some great stories. And they're definitely based on something. They just ain't nothing that they told us that it was in church. That's all. We just get to know the truth now. The gig is up. The gig is up. Let's go to Ezekiel. What was his experience? What is he talking about? Ezekiel chapter 1. A windstorm rushing out of the north. An immense cloud with flashing lightning surrounded by brilliant light. What does that sound like to you? The center of the fire looked like glowing metal. How is any of this supposed to be God? God looks like glowing metal. How is any of this supposed to be God? It ain't. In the midst of the fire, there were 4 living creatures, human form, with 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight. Their feet looked like those of a calf made of burnished bronze. And if you look at the Anuna, also known as the Elohim, what were they into? This is the zodiac right here. And they loved the lion and they also loved the bull because that was the zodiac. That was Leo. And then, of course, the bull is Taurus. It did not need to turn as they went. The wheels were omnidirectional. Now, I've heard that NASA has a patent on omnidirectional wheels, that you can put an omnidirectional wheel on something and it can move forward, backwards, in any direction without turning around. That's what they had. That was their technology. He's telling you what he saw. He saw an omnidirectional wheel. Now, this man probably hadn't even that. An actual wheel probably hadn't even been developed, invented yet by humans. And he's seeing a wheel, and he's not calling it an omnidirectional wheel because he would not have the wordology, the linguistics that we currently have, which is, we know that's an omnidirectional wheel. He doesn't have that. So he's saying that they had wheels and somehow they didn't have to turn as they went. He's describing it to you. Then he says the appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals of fire or like torches. And he said fire moved back and forth among the creatures. They sped back and forth like lightning. He saw a wheel within a wheel on the ground. And you know what he said? Every time they moved, the wheel moved. He said, when the living creatures move, the wheels move. When the living creatures lifted up off the earth, the wheels lifted up off the earth. He's talking about takeoff. He's talking about the wheels sparkled like topaz. When the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. This is a... Why do we think this is spiritual? The church done bamboozled us, family. The church has bamboozled us for thousands of years, and even before the church, because this all happened before the church. Before the church, the Yahwehs bamboozled us because they made all of this to be God. They took all the alien stories and made them God stories and made it one God, even though they couldn't cover their tracks, because the Bible still is giving you the clues. The Bible is telling you, hey, you better dig deeper because they tried to change me, but I'm trying to help y'all. I'm trying to help y'all. That's what the Bible is saying. Now he said above the creatures was a vault, sparkling like crystal. Then the sound of the wings was like the roar of rushing waters. Above the vault was a throne that looked like lapis lazuli. These people love crystals because crystals are great conductors of energy. All the spiritual people know that. On the throne was a figure like that of a man. And people love to say this is God. God ain't no man. God never got on a throne. God never came to anybody looking like fire. This is all the Anuna or the Elohim. I won't say the other word. Here's Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 27 and 28. It said, I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up. This is the man on the throne. He said he looks like a man. He looks like a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal. Does God look like glowing metal as if full of fire? And that from there down, he looked like fire and brilliant light surrounded him. He's talking about, he's talking about a pilot in a spaceship. Crazy, ain't it? It's right there in plain daylight if we read it. Like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day, so was the radiance around him. Looking like something that we see in NASA. I bet you if you went to the space shuttle launch, it would look, you could fit it right to this description. Now let's look at some of the clues. Like the voice of Shaddai. That's what Ezekiel said, that the voice was like the voice of Shaddai. Aha, here's a clue. Because El Shaddai is mistranslated in the Bible as Almighty. We know that El Shaddai does not mean Almighty. El Shaddai means the El of the mountain or the El of the plain. The El is one of the Elohim. Him, Im, I am is plural. So he's one of the L's, Shaddai. So whenever you see the name Shaddai or whenever you see Almighty, just say, oh, that's one of the Elohim. He said it was the voice like Shaddai. He knew which one he was talking to. Ezekiel 1:28 says, as the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud, he was talking about a rainbow, in the day of rain, so was the appearance of the brightness around about. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. See how they changed it right here? This is when they made it spiritualized. They made it look like God. It's a vision. They made it metaphysical. And when I saw it, I fell upon my face and I heard a voice of one that spake. Kavod is the word that we know has been mistranslated, glory of God. No, a kavod is a big heavy metal object that may be dangerous, as in armaments. A kavod is a ship, not glory. Dissect it. Here's the chart that I promised you at the end. I'm going to give you some resources to look up and read the books and do the research for yourself. That's important. Study to show thyself approved, right? Here's a little chart that I made because I wanted to compare what Enoch, Elijah, and Ezekiel said and saw, according to the stories that we have. I don't know if Enoch, Elijah, and Ezekiel are real people, like I said, We have some stories, we have some accounts. We don't know who wrote them because their names weren't on them when they wrote them. So we're using the names to sort of describe which story we're talking about. Did they see fire? Yes. They all describe vivid fire, which one would expect from advanced technology. Lightning, somehow. And why is this so strange? Because we have stories of who is the one who stole lightning and gave it to the humans? Who is that god? Please put it in the chat. One of the gods uh, took lightning and he gave it to the humans. Crystals, both Enoch and Ezekiel describe the crystals. One is lapis lazuli, the other one is there's like a whole crystal house. It's magnificent what he's describing. Multi-winged creatures, absolutely. They both see multi-winged creatures, both Enoch and Ezekiel. Elijah was just him and Elisha, and the chariot took them up. A throne, they see some kind of throne with the appearance of a man. Both Enoch talks about that, and Ezekiel talks about that. Portals. Now, Enoch comes straight out and says there were portals. He saw portals and there was fire around portals. I don't know if these were black holes, and he was seeing around the black hole. Well, they could have opened portals. We don't know. They could have opened portals because this was an advanced civilization and we're learning how to open portals. So they probably already had that down pat. Elijah and Ezekiel imply portals because they said the heavens opened up, or there was some kind of opening in the heaven, or they kind of went up into something. So it's somewhat implied, even though it's not directly stated. A chariot or a kavod. Enoch did not talk about an actual chariot. We don't have in the book of Enoch his actual way of conveying him. He didn't talk much about the conveyance. He talked about his experience. But in Elijah, we do have a chariot, a kavod, and Ezekiel also there is a kavod. They all talk about the whirlwind. So there's this great wind. It's very, and the Bible, they made it spiritual again, made Ruach goes the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God was moving across the waters. No, it was wind. These things are very practical. These things are objective reality. So once again, critical thinking skills, research. That's what's going to get us the answers, not church. Here's one of the references. Is the book of Enoch. The books of Enoch, because there are several of them if you like to buy them. This is the one that I have. I have it on my Kindle so that I can read it when I'm on planes and everywhere, because I don't want to lug all my books everywhere I go. So I'll have a lot of books on Kindle also. I also want to show you a couple of others that are going to be critical for you to get. Let me show you these. When God Had a Wife, you definitely have got to get that book because that is telling you all about the redaction of the Bible and when they took out the divine feminine, the goddess. 101 Myths of the Bible tells you all about the Adam and Eve myth, where it came from, the Noah myth, where it came from. As the Sodom and Gomorrah myth, we're going to talk about that in a future episode of this series because Sodom and Gomorrah was not destroyed because of them. There's a perfectly good explanation. We have the explanation for the explosion of Sodom and Gomorrah, the destruction of those twin cities, and even Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt. We have the actual explanations for those. You want to get the Naked Bible. Mauro Bellino is an absolute genius and well studied translator. He was working on translations of the Hebrew Bible overseen by the Vatican. And when he started telling them that he saw all of these Elohim in there and that these words didn't mean what the church was saying the words mean, you know, they got rid of him. Take a screenshot of this because you just want to look up some of my favorite scholars, YouTube channels. I listen to all kinds of people. I listen to Bible scholars. Only understand Bible scholars, church people, and all of the people who are in the paradigm of the 6,000 years Adam and Eve story, they are not going past 6,000 years. So they're not going to tell you, even Bible scholars, they are working in a very rigid framework. The framework does not even allow them to consider the Elohim or that something else was going on hundreds of thousands of years ago. Even though we know it, they're not going to allow themselves to go there. They just don't. Okay? They just don't. All right, let's hear it. The Bible is cloaked with a veil and a higher frequency is symbolic. You have to rip the veil, and it happens as you raise your vibration. Those who have eyes, let them see. That is exactly it. Family, because Prometheus stole the fire and gave it to humans. Prometheus. Okay, let's get your hands on some of these. Okay, the portals and dimensions are probably countless. And there are so many countless levels in the existence of all creations and countless beings from other planets. Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that they were carrying radiation in the Ark of the Covenant. Yep, it was uranium from Ur. That's why it killed when someone touched it. Only certain people survived who were on a higher frequency. Yes. And remember, you had to wear that breastplate with the 12 crystals in it. Oh, we're going to get into that. Remember, they told you in the Bible that Aaron and the high priest wore the breastplate when they went into the Ark of the Covenant. Now, you want to hear something really interesting about the Ark of the Covenant? The Bible absolutely is a spell book. Oh, yes, indeed. Do you want to hear something interesting about the Ark of the Covenant? The Ark of the Covenant and its dimensions. I have been binge watching Billy Carson. Let me tell you. Oh, Billy Carson. I freaking love Billy Carson. Yes, Asherah, Yahweh's wife. That's exactly right. That was Yahweh's wife. Isn't Asherah the name of the wife of the god called El? Yes. And gods morph and change over time as humans change, as our needs change, as wars come, as people get conquered, they get subsumed into other cultures, then they take on those gods, and then there's sometimes eclectic blend. So in the Canaanite pantheon, you had El and you had Baal. El has 70 sons, of whom Yahweh was one of the 70 sons of El. El was like a father, sort of like what you feel like that father side of God. Baal was more of a war storming God. So was Yahweh, who was one of the 70 sons of El. Well, Yahweh got syncretized with El. So Yahweh and El over time got fused together. Okay? Then, once Yahweh and El were fused together, there was still one other God to deal with, and that was Baal. Because we know Baal and Yahweh was always duking it out. And so you had over time the Yahwehs. This is really how Yahweh got to be the big kahuna of the universe when he's not. The way that it happened is because Yahweh eventually won out over Baal because the Yahwehs, this cult of zealots for Yahweh, went around, no, it's Yahweh, it's Yahweh, it's Yahweh. You know, Jeremiah was one of them. And Jeremiah loved to go around telling everybody, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, right? And the women told Jeremiah, get lost, because we worship the Queen of Heaven. And Jeremiah said, no, you got to get away to the Queen of Heaven because the Queen of Heaven is the problem. And they were like, no, 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 Jeremiah. See, when we were burning incense to the Queen of Heaven, and when we were inscribing the Queen of Heaven's name on the cakes that we offer, they were baking cakes with the Queen of Heaven's name inscribed on them. Things were fine with us. But y'all told us to stop giving homage to the great mother. And now look where we are. The women told him. It's in Jeremiah chapter 44. Look it up. I'm going to put it in the chat. Look up Jeremiah chapter 44, where he is trying to convince these women to stop their goddess worship. And they told him absolutely the hell not and get lost. Okay. I love Myth Vision podcast. I love them over there. And Gnostic Informant. I love him too. I love Gnostic Informant. They're friends. Gnostic Informant, Derek of Gnostic Informant, and also Myth Vision. Derek is Myth Vision, and his friend Gnostic Informant. I love those guys. I love those guys. Okay. Am I creating any more books? Yes, I am. I am writing a book currently. The Real God is not in the Bible. It's going to have all of it all detailed out, and that book uh, is going to be released on 11/11 at our event in Sedona. So I'm going to be teaching this at our event next week. So if you come next week, we will see you at the Christian Witches Convention. We're going to be in New Orleans, and we cannot wait to be there. Then I'm going to be teaching it in Bali. We're going to be having a Lion's Gate. We're going to be going deep into astrology while we're in Bali. We're going to have a Lion's Gate ritual. Then we're going to be in Thailand. So we're going to be in Bali in August. We're going to be in Thailand after that. And then we're going to be in Salem in October for my birthday, the week of my birthday. And then we're going to be in Sedona for 11/11. Okay, so yes, Human Encyclopedia. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, it's funny. I always call the God of Israel. I always ask, just Israel? Oh, well, nowhere else? That's exactly right. Because Yahweh is not, you know, yeah, Yahweh is not the God of the universe, right? Makes me think about lead aprons when getting x-rays. Very interesting. Samson, girl, you like Sister Butler, and she was an old school Christian. Just saying, I gotta check out Sister Butler. I don't know who Sister Butler is. Is that a compliment? Yay. I love Sister Butler. Well, I love everybody. Okay. With that said, when the universal creator created humans, very nice, his wife Asherah was by his side when he said, Let us make man. It all makes sense now. We were created through the womb man. Absolutely. This is why the earth is in shambles, chaos, and confusion. This earth isn't balanced and ran by patriarchal society, and they've did away with matriarchal, who I feel is she's true creator God. You know, it's fascinating that you say that. All the stories begin with the mother, from Mami Wata in Africa, even the Bible. The Bible starts with the primordial waters. And then the Elohim, the gods, the powerful ones, it's plural, means like powerful ones, started doing things. Remember, they didn't make us. No one's making something straight from scratch other than the infinite source, whom is the infinite consciousness. They genetically modified what was already here. It's almost like we do with roses, right? Or we also do genetic modification, because I heard now if you want to have a kid with blue eyes or this color or that color, you can do some things. Okay, now here are a couple of things that you want. Of course, you want the Bible with the Apocrypha. And this is one I also highly recommend. Get the Gnostic Bible. As you see, I study all these books. This book will blow your mind too, because in here it's teaching things about Jesus. We'll get into that later on. Right now, we're still in the Old Testament, but yeah, this book, mind blowing. So I recommend this. If you would be so kind, please do use the link below in the description, if you'd be so kind, because that is our link. Humans are a GMO project. Yep, because that is our link to our Amazon influencers page, and that helps the channel and that helps everything that we're creating. Absolutely, the Magi were astrologers. Absolutely, absolutely. Right in our face, fundamental Christians. Yep, yep. Can you imagine? And you know what? It's interesting. It's not even a stretch, is it? It's right in the Bible. Yet most people are not reading the Bible. It's not even a stretch. They're telling us it's hiding in plain sight. It's hiding in plain sight. The same sex loving Roman men who wrote the Bible left all the women out. You know how the Romans are. I have a lot to say about the Romans. That's conversation for another day. All right, family. That's episode number 4. We're going to put this baby to bed. I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being in this series. Absolutely share it. Absolutely subscribe. Absolutely talk to your peeps about it. Let's keep this enlightenment ascension going on this planet, for all of us to ascend. This planet is on the brink of doing some very strange things, and we have the opportunity to elevate the consciousness of this entire planet. I freaking love you for that. Mwah. Peace. Casey out. ValerieLove.com and ChristianWitches.com. Peace.